Welcome back to Game Informer. I am Leo Vader. With me today is Matt Kato.
Hello.
And Brian Shea.
Hey.
We're looking at all our favorite games of the year. Today it's Control. We like this game, don't we? Don't we, folks?
We like it a lot.
Yeah.
So, I think this is the most Remedy game Remedy has ever put out. Like, they've done Max Payne 1 and 2, they've done Alan Wake, they've done Quantum Break.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like those were all kind of leading up to this game. I feel like...
I think that's totally true.
It's all of the DNA from those games put into one adventure.
Most fun combat they've done.
Oh, by far.
The most paranormal, like, psychological writing they've done. It's like this game is packed of full of so many little stories, and like every little side television with these little TV shows on them, all these hidden documents.
It's so
much
weird.
going on in here.
Is this the game with the most finish in the game than the other ones?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there was any finish in the other games, were there?
Finish?
Yeah.
Are we doing wordplay because they're located in the nation of Finland?
Yes.
But it does have
good.
finish in it, though.
Doesn't
Sure.
the janitor, right?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a while since I played this.
And also, in addition to like having all the characters or all the DNA from other games, a lot of the actors from other games have come. The voice of Max
Yeah.
Payne is in this. The voice of Alan Wake is in this.
It's an all-star cast,
It really is.
truly. And do you know if this has been a success for them? Because I feel like they've had a lot of kind of cult classics, indie darlings, but I don't know if they've had a breakout hit. But I feel like this has been their best shot at it. Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's their best overall game, and I also think that it got a lot of positive attention when it came out,
Certainly.
and it seems like it's doing pretty well. I don't know how it's doing as far as sales go, but I think it's like people like it a lot.
On PC, it is an Epic Game Store exclusive. Who knows if it was hurt a little bit by that, but...
Yeah, but I'm sure they got pretty good financial incentives for that, so that probably helps a lot to make up for the fact that it's not on Steam.
Right.
And eventually it will be on Steam, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're only doing like year exclusives.
Yeah, like
EGS.
Hades is on Steam now, right?
Oh, is it? Cool.
Yeah, I think that just hit Steam Early Access last week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a really great game. I think that it does a better job than most games at giving you like an all-out power fantasy.
Yes, which we're not showing here because our favorite Epic Game Store does not have cloud saves for this. So we're kind of starting from near the beginning again. But the late games powers you get are just so gorgeous to look at and so fun to use.
Yeah, and like they're like chaining them together just feels so good. Like once you have levitate and I forget all the other names, but like you can take control of other like of enemies, C's.
Yeah.
The dodge one, the midair dodge is really good.
The dodge is really good.
Yes.
Being able to like kind of use the Force Jedi style thing to like pull objects to you and throw them at enemies is super satisfying.
Yes.
And like the real fun comes in like combining all those together into like one seamless encounter, and then also you have a gun that can change forms, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a pistol form, there's like a kind of a machine gun form, a shotgun form, and then kind of like I think it's called Pierce, where you can just like blast through light obstacles and multiple enemies.
Yes, that one's really fun.
That's really awesome.
Quick
Like a
thing.
charge shot.
And this is just, sort of a small little factoid point in the whole thing, but if I'm looking at this correctly here suddenly on my phone, if through August and September NPD, Control was not on those lists. So just to kind of that small data point, but, regardless, it's a pretty sweet game.
Regardless, it's worth checking out for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Here we go.
Launch. Here we go. One of the ones we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's harder to hear you when I'm here.
It's always kind of nice. If you think something's going to be around the corner, which there probably is going to be something around the corner, just grab something
Oh yeah.
and
Get it ready.
just get ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes a really cool sound when it's coming in, which is, I think, an underappreciated element.
Yeah.
So here we go. There you go. Yeah.
And I think the feel between, like this can be pretty generous, obviously, depending on the size and the blast radius of the object when you throw it. But I also think that the actual gameplay itself, and there are assists, or there's sort of an aim assist you can toggle on or off. But the gunplay itself feels really good, also. So
It does.
Yes.
It's not just, it's pretty cool that it can work on both points.
Me and Shea, along with Elise Favis, who's now at Launcher, we went on the cover story for this game
Yeah.
and got to play it early, which was cool. But I don't know about you, Shea. When we played it early, I was kind of underwhelmed by the combat.
Really?
Like, the feel of it didn't feel quite as tight. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt because at that early stage, that's before they've done the optimization, which affects, like, latency and frame rate and everything. And it really came together. Like, I couldn't believe how good it felt when I got my hands on the finished thing.
I don't know if I was underwhelmed by the combat feel as much as I was the fact that we weren't really playing curated encounters. We were more so playing like the wave-based stuff just to kind of get a feel for how the game feels,
Yeah.
But I remember coming away from that, like going there, I was like, oh, this will be fun. Like I like Alan Wake and I like the early Max Payne games, but I came away impressed and surprised by how much I liked the way the game played, and I'm really glad it kind of came together even better than it was when we saw it.
Yeah, totally. They're very humble people,
They
I
are.
feel like they didn't get our expectations insanely high, and then they exceeded the expectations that were there by a lot for me.
Oh, for sure. And there's so many weird elements about this game that I love, like things that I don't really want to spoil, but there's like some really cool enemy types that pop up later in the game, really cool boss encounters that are a lot of the times it's optional, the boss battles in this game. Like there's side missions, which they have really great side missions in this as well.
Yeah.
Revolving
For sure.
around like the objects of power
Yeah.
that are throughout the oldest house.
So memorable. Like, so many great little vignettes, like Twilight Zone-esque. That stuff they're really good at.
Yeah, and most of them or a lot of them give you new powers as well, which is really cool. Like there's some that you would not get if you just mainlined the game.
Right.
And I think, also a great effort has been done to put in, going through the design of the game, everything from the colors to the architecture. There's the brutalist architecture style that's in for the oldest house.
Mm-hmm.
And it, as you can see, the look of everything and the layout of everything, it really all comes together in a real nice package to augment the story, obviously augment your powers because you're sucking in and throwing out all these objects at any time. Which, as you can see, is they're highlighted the ones that you can throw. But the style of it, and even like there's kind of these card breaks where it just tells you sometimes where you're at, executive room or whatever.
So
And
stylish.
these big, just sans serif clean font.
Yeah.
It all goes together to really give you, put you in the world, and just give it a singular style and feel.
And those guys are a giant pain to fight.
Yeah, easier when you get evades and things like that.
Yeah. And I think the evade is actually one of those optional
It is.
powers. Like
It
you,
is.
you don't get that if you just mainline it. Because I remember
Wow.
watching somebody do like one of the later encounters, and I'm like, why don't you use your dodge? And they're like, what do you mean?
What is a dodge?
So
Which is just crazy from a design standpoint. You could have a game that you could play, finish, and still enjoy, and yet something like, an aerial dodge, you
Yeah.
might just never have picked up.
Which, something I haven't heard people talk too much about is the way this game tries to make itself more replayable.
Mhm.
It has kind of those events that will spawn, and you'll have a real life timer of like 30 minutes to get to this room and take care of this problem.
yeah, and they just did a free update for the game, which added more of that style of stuff.
That's awesome.
They announced that at the Game Awards.
Well, there's also too those mystery cards or whatever that have like the rarity attached to them, which you can end up spending the resources to purchase those.
Oh yeah.
And just kind of see what kind of power up or whatever augment you might get.
Yeah, the mod system too, I think, is really smartly designed. Like, the personal mods, they're exciting pickups, you'll get different rarities of them that have sometimes massively helpful buffs, like those percentages. You can see health plus 17%.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff gets really high.
And building your character to suit your playstyle is
Definitely.
extremely satisfying.
Like, the first one I think a lot of people actually got this, but the first really good one I got was for C's speed. Became
yeah.
like twice as fast. So I was like, okay, how do I build around C's and always make sure I do that first thing in a battle and always have people on my side? And like, yeah, focusing on things you have good mods for and things you like doing make the combat really satisfying in this game.
And I think that like one of the themes of the game is just how unsettling so many of the things you encounter are. And I remember those guys that you just fought were probably the first thing I was like, all right, that's a little like creepy, you know? And it just gets like creepier and creepier the deeper you get into this until, you know, I would say the final encounter of like the main game, like the whole final sequence is pretty unsettling. I don't want to, again, I want to kind of talk around spoilers here because it is a unique way to close out the game.
Please do, yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this from start to finish, and I even went back after I beat it and did some more side missions.
That's that text Kato's talking about. Really stark and striking.
And a lot of times when we see games pre-release, it'll have stuff like that where it's like, oh, that's just a placeholder, don't worry about that. But then they actually kept it in, which I think was a great idea because it fits with the brutalist architecture that Kato brought up.
Definitely.
And here's, you know, almost like a surreal kind of non sequitur sequence that you just don't see in a lot of games. You know, I mean, what's going to transpire here with the hotel or the motel?
Yeah,
is just
The Holiday Inn.
great.
and not to mention the Holiday Inn. Yeah,
And yeah, you go to the Ocean View Motel, which is where we're at right now, a few times throughout the story, and each time there's a different puzzle to solve. And you can see that ringing that bell had some effect on the doors over there. And there are different things you have to interact with in certain ways in order to get it to go. And it doesn't necessarily always make the most sense right off the bat. It's more about identifying patterns and just kind of figuring out what the game wants you to do in these moments. And I don't think that in a vacuum I would love these sections, but I do think that like as a break to the other action, it's really great.
It's the pace of this game, it flows really nicely. You're always in the mood for combat, in the mood for a puzzle, or at least I was when they're presented.
And you know, considering that you'll backtrack and you'll hit certain locations, over and over. Obviously, there's certain areas that are gated for later on or whatever. But the way it breaks up, even and the way they even design the levels and whatever, it doesn't feel stale as you're going through the game.
Yeah, for sure. But there is just enough of that kind of backtracking for those events we talked about, where it's like if you want to spend more time in the world, there's plenty to do in it.
And then as you get those new powers, it has kind of a Metroidvania aspect to it where, all right, now I can levitate so I can reach that new area.
Yeah. I also like when you find a new way to get into an area where suddenly you're coming in from like the very top of this massive room and you can kind of handle the fight differently from there, because sometimes it will just respawn enemies and you'll have to do kind of the random fights in places you've already fought before if you're traversing those areas again.
Oh, here's another really unsettling enemy type, the Astral Spike.
Yeah, because you can't kill it.
Yeah, you can't do anything with it. Like, I don't even know if that delays it at all.
Can try.
Yeah, those things are horrifying because they're just like, they look really unnatural and they just pursue you relentlessly.
Yeah.
The only hope you have is to outrun it. Oh, God.
I almost jumped right into that one's mouth. Does that thing have a mouth?
There's a couple times where they they got really close to me, and I thought it was over.
Yeah. The game's animations are really, really impressive. Like, Remedy is not the world's biggest studio or anything, but like the way animations flow together, the physics on like her jacket, the little details like that, and obviously the way the world explodes when you pick stuff up off tables with launch.
Hey, there's Alan Wake himself.
Connect to any typical network. A direct line to the astral plane and the board.
These sequences are great.
And my
Yeah.
hypothesis is, under the right conditions, to other planes of existence as well.
So it's Dr. Casper Darling, an eccentric genius.
Is he one of our best characters of the year?
I don't think he ended up being on our list, but I think
Too
he's
bad.
one of the best characters of the year.
Yeah, between us three, certainly one of our best characters.
Yeah. And here's Max Payne.
Secrets of the Bureau as well as I do. some even better. Darling, Tomasi, Salvador, Marshall. Marshall especially, my head of operations.
Did you guys like the story? The core mystery of the game?
I did.
Relying on people.
They were not kidding when they told us during the cover trip that there will not be answers to every mystery revealed in this, because I still had so many questions when it was over.
That was something interesting they talked about on the trip, was that they built this game from the world out, you know, rather than characters first. Although, of course, obviously they're not an afterthought, but they built a world to tell interesting stories in, and I feel like there's going to be more in this series for sure.
I mean, if this was a success, like you said, it didn't, or like Kato said, it didn't hit NPD on the months that it came out. Although, to
that
be
means
fair,
top 10 of the month, right?
Yeah,
Sounds like.
Yeah.
The August release date was like the 28th.
Yeah,
so I
it
wouldn't
was
have
at the
expected
end
to be
of
there.
it was at the end of that month.
But I think that this is maybe their most critically acclaimed game.
I think definitely.
I mean, maybe Max Payne 1 or 2 might have topped it in terms of like review scores or something, or general reception. But I think this is probably their most well-received game.
Yeah.
In a long time, at least. And I would love to see a sequel or further exploration of this world.
Even Quantum Break, you know, people would always defend the combat of that game. Like the TV show aspect didn't really work for many people, but it's like Remedy clearly has these talented people, and I'm glad they finally got this project that like puts all of their best skills to use.
Absolutely. I mean, Mixu, who is the director of this game, has worked on a lot of huge projects before coming over to Remedy. And then obviously you have people like Sam Lake, who did a lot of the writing for this game, and it's also the face of Max Payne in the first 2 games.
That smirking face.
Yeah.
It was surreal being at that studio, and then the smirking face of Max Payne sits down next to you at lunch. That was a great moment. Fun dude to talk to.
Yeah, he's fascinating. We only got a short time with him while we were at the studio, but he always is great for conversation.
Yeah.
I think I interviewed him 3 times in the lead up to this game release. Like I interviewed him at E3, I interviewed him at NYCC, and then along with the actress for Jesse Faden, who looks exactly like Jesse Faden,
Right.
Courtney Hope, who does a great job in this game. And then once again, we were at Remedy itself, out in near Helsinki.
Yeah. Good materials. There's also crafting in this game. Again, the crafting and the mods and things like that, I feel like they do hit a good balance of enough to keep you invested, but not overly complicated.
And they're underappreciated.
You get it immediately.
Whoa. It is really satisfying to throw that stuff into people and like see the different effects based on what it was. Like every item having the different weight and then leaving different marks on like the walls. And you
those
saw the fire
embers.
extinguisher, the way it exploded.
Yeah. Really unbelievable. Really amazing work here.
Really a terrific game.
I guess full disclosure, if you're thinking about getting it on the base consoles, it's known to run pretty poorly, which is too bad. But like PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, it looks great. We're playing it on a big PC here, big beefy PC. That's where I played it, and I loved it there.
Though I have not, I mean, I heard it a lot about base PS4 and base Xbox One running poorly, but that was around launch, and I know they have done a lot of performance patches, so I can't verify
Sure.
whether that's still the case.
Yeah, that's a good
It
point. But
did
yeah,
run-
definitely look into it before you.
I played on the base PS4, and I'm not, you know, it's not a horror show or anything like that.
Sure. Okay, that's good.
It
to know.
ran great on my Xbox One X, though.
Sure did. Well, I'm getting a little lost here, so it seems like it's time to wrap it up. But thank you guys for joining me. We do have many more of these videos up already and going up more later about all of our favorite games of the year. So stay tuned to Game Informer and watch more of them. Happy holidays, everybody.